The trail the philosopher's stone had left had been hard to find, and even harder to follow, but the beasts had found it eventually. Lee held back, lips curling in a silent growl of frustration. Lee saw her target, the philosopher's stone dressed in black, with the young male who protected her, Lucas. Inexperienced as he was, it was easy pickings. She was about to approach, when others suddenly appeared, materializing around the younger ones, transported by their magic. 3 other guardians, elder ones, the ones they had been fighting. They were outnumbered. "They have got there first," she tensed. "So sly that they got here before we did." Lee turned back to Creus. "What the hell is wrong with you?" Creus caressed his arm tenderly. Still sticking out of his left shoulder was a handle. In their haste to chase after their prey, he had not had time nor chance to remove it yet. "He stabbed me with a potato peeler," Creus hissed. "That young guardian, damn him. Stop your whining." Lee slunk back from the top of the hill. She had been crouching, hiding there in the long grass. Out of sight now of the others, she stood tall again, joining Creus as he pawed at the thing stuck in his shoulder. Lee grabbed the handle with her teeth, jerked it backward sharply, and throwing it away. Creus recoiled as she did this, but did not make a sound. He turned his head to lick the wound, cleaning the blood away. "Come on," Lee said. "We'd better tell our master what news we have." Creus cackled, straightening. "Indeed," she agreed. "She has been found, but not the one we were originally looking for." 2 philosopher's stones," Creus sniggered cruelly. "What fun! What power! Our master is far now, and travelling fast. We must be swift to catch him. Can you run, Creus?" "I can run faster than you can," he sneered. He had finished cleaning the injury. "Then let us not argue about it then." They left the scene, heading back swiftly towards the centre of town to find their master. "Don't be afraid," the red-haired guardian said. "My name is Indigo, and we pose no harm." "What do you want with her?" Lucas demanded. "To protect her." "You're lying." "We're telling the truth," Indigo persisted. "If we had wanted to harm her, I would not waste my breath on explanations." "I think he's telling the truth," Ebony muttered into Lucas's ear. "I told you, didn't I? I told you there are those who wish to protect me." "Tell me, child," Indigo continued, speaking to Ebony. "What is your name?" "Ebony." "And what a beautiful name it is too." He put a hand to his chest. "I am Indigo, and these are Shire and Siren." He indicated the elder guardians that stood nearby. "They are mother and daughter." Shire smiled back at Ebony and Lucas. Siren remained impassive. "They do look very similar, don't they?" Ebony said offhandedly, still sticking close to Lucas. "Except the eyes," she said to them. "You have very different eyes." Shire's were burnished gold and yellow. Siren's were light and misty blue. "Tell me," Indigo asked Ebony, "have you run into other beings, those that hunt you?" "Yes," Ebony answered. 2 creatures, one black and smaller, and the other tall and dog-like." "It's them." Shire curled her lip in disgust. "It looks like you've gotten yourself into a bit of a scrap," Indigo said to Lucas, indicating his torn clothes and the scratches and nicks over his body. "And what's this?" he asked, glancing to Lucas's back, where there were 2 vertical slits torn in his shirt side by side and perfectly straight. It's nothing," Lucas grumbled, avoiding the subject. "Don't worry," Indigo said, getting back on topic. "You're safe with us now. They won't attack if they're outnumbered." "How do you know this about them?" Lucas asked suspiciously. "Because we fought them before," Indigo replied. "Where was it you met them?" "At my home." "Your home?" Indigo was suddenly alarmed. "What about your family? Are they safe?" "I don't know. My brother was there, and 3 of our friends." Indigo nodded. "Shire will see to them. Just tell us where you live." Lucas gave the address, explaining briefly how to find the place, and Shire bowed her head respectively. "I will see that they are well," she spoke politely. "Thank you, Shire," Indigo said eagerly. "Now go." Shire turned on the spot and strode away. She vanished into thin air, fading before their very eyes. "Aren't we going back to see if they're okay?" Lucas asked. "In time," Indigo replied. "First I want to find out more about this fascinating creature," he said, looking at Ebony. "Tell me," Indigo went on, distracting himself momentarily, and speaking now with some level of amusement to Lucas. "How did one such as yourself become so close to a philosopher's stone? I hear they are very shy by nature and suspicious of most people." Reuben stood by the broken window, gazing outwards, shoulders slumped. "Lucas, my brother, where are you now?" Behind him the aberrant Culture still observed Lorelei, kneeling before her and muttering inaudibly under his breath. Drake sat quietly beside them on the sofa. Jacob on her other side was standing. They both watched Lorelei sadly. "Is there anything you can do for her?" Jacob asked. "Will she be okay?" "Now, not if she doesn't receive help," the aberrant replied. He stretched his wings. Jacob stepped back as one drew closer to him. "What kind of help?" Drake asked. "The kind of help only a guardian can offer," the aberrant replied. "Magic has done this to her, and only magic can save her." Another figure materialized suddenly into the room without warning. All eyes turned to her. Drake slowly straightened up at the sight of the blue-haired woman. She was tall, with very pale skin and burnished golden eyes. Reuben turned at the sound of the magic as she appeared. He moved away from the window, giving the strange woman a skeptical look. "Who are you?" he asked. "Shire," the blue-haired guardian replied shortly without looking at him. Her attention shifted to Lorelei, who was still stiff and pale where she sat. Her eyes were glazed over, and she appeared to be completely unaware of her surroundings or anyone in the room. "What is the girl's name?" Shire asked as she approached, kneeling before her. "It's Lorelei," Drake said. "Lorelei?" Shire spoke her words calm and clear. "Lorelei, can you hear me?" "She's unresponsive," Culture replied. Lorelei was sweating. Her skin was clammy and her shallow breathing was rapid. Shire touched her at the neck and wrist. "Her pulse is weak and fast," she said. "The girl's hyperventilating. She's entered the second stage of shock." "Compensatory?" Culture asked. "Yes," Shire said, rising to her feet. "If she enters the progressive stage, the damage may be irreversible." The aberrant grimaced suddenly, rising and turning his back on the others, clutching his chest as he moved away. "Are you all right?" Shire worried. Culture groaned, still holding himself, his body hunched over. "It hurts," he whispered, "with every heartbeat." The pain seemed to subside, for the aberrant's body relaxed again, and he let out a deep breath. "Is Lorelei going to be okay?" Jacob repeated, more urgently now. "Can't you do something?" "There is a way," Shire mumbled. She spoke to Culture. "You know what it is." Culture shifted his dark eyes to her. "Are you prepared to do it?" he asked solemnly. "She is the one I've been waiting for." Shire glanced at Lorelei. "Perhaps it is fate," she whispered. "I am willing to save her." She spoke louder now to the others in the room. "But she will not be the same if I do." "Do whatever you have to," Jacob urged, brushing Lorelei's auburn hair back tenderly. "Please, just save her." Shire nodded. "Don't be afraid," Shire soothed. "Everything is going to be all right." "What are you going to do?" Jacob asked nervously. "How can you save her?" "By passing on my magic." Shire touched Lorelei in the centre of her chest, right above her heart. "She will be just like you." A white light grew, gradually engulfing the entire room and all within before fading away completely. Reuben blinked as his eyes adjusted to the regular light once more. The aberrant Culture rose to catch the blue-haired woman as she stumbled backwards, suddenly overcome with fatigue. Culture guided her to the armchair and sat her down. She slumped, closing her eyes and resting. "She'll take some time to recover," Culture said absently. "And Lorelei?" Jacob asked. "Will be all right now," Culture finished. "Rest will return her to her usual self." It was true now that Lorelei was already looking better. Her breathing had returned to normal, and the colour was slowly coming back to her cheeks. She appeared now to be only sleeping. Jacob let out a deep sigh of relief. "You better watch your backs," Culture warned them all. "There is still danger out there. Don't assume that this is over just yet." Jacob raised his hand before his face, summoning into existence a ball of light. He played with it, twirling it between his fingers with ease. "Put your magic away," Reuben hissed. "It's magic that did this to Lorelei." "It's okay," Jacob said absently. "She is one of us now." Drake turned his head curiously towards him. "Jacob?" "Don't call me that," he said, staring at the light in his hand, mesmerized. "My name," he continued, closing his palm, cutting off the magic, "is Venom." "Two philosopher's stones," the master repeated. Creus tittered to himself, listening with pleasure and anticipation as the news was delivered to their master. "Are you sure of this?" their master asked, speaking to Lee. "Positive, master," the beast replied. "I saw them with my own eyes. We both did. 2 of them." Creus sniggered in agreement. "One white and one black. This is interesting." "Does it change anything?" Creus asked. "It does," the master replied coolly. "Now we hunt 2 instead of 1. "Well, what about the other guardians?" Lee asked her master. "They have the black one. Have they taken her to the ancient world?" the master asked. Lee shook her head. "I can't be sure." "But the white one," Creus interjected quickly. "She is still free." "Then we will find her," the master said. "It is likely that the other guardians will remain here," Lee said, "until they have both of the Philosopher's Stones." "Then we had best be quick," the master said. "We need to up our game. The Black Philosopher's Stone seems to have an attachment to one of the young guardians," Lee told him. The master nodded. "I want you to find them. Keep an eye on them and strike when you have the chance. Strike when the elder guardians drop their guard. I want you to get the Black Philosopher's Stone back." "We will watch the young guardians," Creus hissed. "We will not fail." "Be sure that you don't," the master warned. "Do what needs to be done, whatever the cost. We cannot fail Lagoon. He would not be pleased." The small group walked slowly through the tall grass of the meadow, moving gradually away from the town in no particular direction. The area grew more open the further away they walked, and they passed easily over the broken picket fences and the strands of barbed wire that curled and twisted in the grass. "So tell us more about this second Philosopher's Stone," Indigo said, after hearing the story Lucas had told about how he and Ebony had first met. "I already told you," Ebony sighed. "We only talked to her briefly. She ran off just before you guys arrived. She seemed very frightened when she realized you were about to turn up." "She knew we were coming before we arrived?" Indigo asked. "She did," Ebony replied, glancing sideways at him. Indigo pondered at this, humming thoughtfully to himself. "She must be a sharp one in that case. No wonder it's been so hard to find her." "Anyway," Ebony continued, "wouldn't I be the second Philosopher's Stone if she was the one you were originally looking for?" "I suppose," Indigo smiled. "She has been eluding us for a while now. You, on the other hand, seem to come from nowhere." He paused. "It's so unusual to find 2 together, such rare creatures that you are." Lucas and Ebony led the way, with Indigo walking slightly behind. Siren followed after them, several steps after, still clutching her orb firmly in her hands. "Did you see which way this other Philosopher's Stone went?" Indigo asked, trying his best to sound casual. Lucas glared suspiciously at him at this. "Oh, I don't know," Ebony shrugged distractedly. "Please," Indigo whined. "This is really important." "Why?" Ebony demanded, turning on him. "What do you want from her?" "She needs to be protected," Indigo replied. "I don't think she needs your protection," Ebony told him, "nor would she want it. I think perhaps she just wants to be left alone." "Why, do you know her?" Indigo asked slyly. "No." "Then how do you know what she would want?" Ebony crossed her arms suddenly, stubbornly. "Because I feel the same," she said. Indigo scowled at her. "If her powers gets into the wrong hands, what are you planning to do with her if you find her?" Ebony asked him. "And now that you've found me, what do you plan to do?" "You need to be taken to the ancient world," Indigo replied. "You would be safer there?" "I am just as safe here as I would be there," Ebony argued. "No, you'd be amongst friends there." "Friends?" Ebony stopped and looked at the sky, seeing a flock of geese flying in formation overhead. "I have never known what it's like not to be alone." The others paused then. "You will be safer in the ancient world," Indigo persisted. "There are more guardians, there is more magic, you would be protected there, understood?" "In a world where there are more guardians who want to hurt me," Ebony sighed. She continued walking. The others followed suit. Lucas beside her was completely silent now, and Siren continued to stare into her orb as she trailed after them. "At least in this world fewer people know about me," Ebony went on. "We can't have this kind of power simply wandering around," Indigo went on. "Do you have any idea of the consequences if you are found by the wrong people?" An image flashed in Ebony's mind then of a girl she once knew and loved, her sister, screaming for Ebony to run, before she was slaughtered so violently before her very eyes. "Yes," Ebony murmured, slowing to a stop again. "I do." Indigo hesitated. "Then I suppose you'd know in that case how important it is that we return both of you to the ancient world where you belong." "I belong here," Ebony replied dreamily, as if she were only half listening. "Where is she?" Indigo demanded, his tone losing patience now. "You won't find her," Ebony said simply. "If she's managed to hide from you all this time, then you will struggle to find her now. She's older than I am, and so much more experienced." "You will tell me." "I won't," Ebony droned, turning away and crossing her arms, an action that seemed to infuriate him even more. "You will not play this game with me," Indigo began, raising his voice and taking a step towards her. In an instant Lucas put himself between them, shoving Indigo in the chest and pushing him back. "Stay away," he ordered, nearly shouting. "Indigo," Siren barked suddenly, speaking up for the first time as Indigo made a move to step forwards. "You will not frighten her. She is scared enough as it is." Indigo glared at all of them, shaking his head in exasperation. "Foolish children," he huffed, storming away, though he didn't go far. "I'm sorry, Ebony," Siren told her in a soothing voice. "We truly mean you no harm, but we have been searching and travelling for so long, we are all tired and weary." Ebony smiled at her. There was something about this girl that calmed her, that made her feel at ease. Siren beamed back, consulting her orb again. Within it, she saw a handsome character dressed in leather, his black hair spiked forwards. "Do you know someone called Venom?" she asked suddenly, speaking to Lucas. "Venom?" He hesitated. "Jacob?" Siren offered. "Is he okay?" Lucas asked her nervously. "Don't worry," Siren reassured him. "He is well. I can see him now. What about my brother?" Siren hummed. "What does he look like?" "So are we just going to sit here like this and do nothing?" Venom argued to Reuben. "It's not safe to leave. It's not safe to stay." Reuben glared at him. "You think I don't want to try and find my brother? I wouldn't even know where to begin." They were still in the flat, and Reuben, lost for anything else to do, had tried to tidy the place as best he could, just to keep his mind occupied. When he had finished, he grew quickly bored and restless. He stood by the broken window now, staring out in case he saw his brother. He swallowed the lump in his throat. "The creatures won't come back here," Culture said offhanded. "It's the girl in black that they seek." Venom sighed and covered his face with a hand. "How do we know Lucas and Ebony are not in danger?" "Indigo is likely to be with them by now," Culture replied. "So is Siren." "They are your friends, I assume?" Venom asked, turning to him. "I would try to find them myself," Culture spoke up, "but I'm not feeling well." He unconsciously touched his chest as he said this, and besides, he continued, "I don't want to leave Shira alone." "Geez, I only came here to meet Ebony," Venom huffed. Reuben brushed the curtain back slightly. "It's getting dark outside." He moved away and sat in one of the cushioned seats. Several minutes of silence passed, and Reuben's mind began to wander as he stared blankly at the wall. White. Not a bad colour. I suppose you can mix white with any colour in a room. Easy to get dirty, though. I guess that's why doctors wear it. Do nurses wear white? My dentist does. "Hey!" Venom shouted. "I'm talking to you. Are you listening to me?" "Be quiet," Reuben hissed. "You'll wake them up," he said, indicating Shire and Lorelei. "We should go out and look for them," Venom said. "We should do that at least." "Look for them where?" Reuben laughed flatly. "They could be anywhere. They could be 100 miles away for all we know. This town is large enough, and besides," Reuben added in mumble, "I don't think Lucas wants me around right now." "Then what should we do?" Reuben continued in a hushed voice. "Stay here and wait," Reuben said in a tone that suggested the end of the conversation. Venom turned away, and Reuben became quickly distracted again. "Lucas left his mobile behind," Reuben thought, seeing it on the floor. "I guess he didn't get a chance to pick it up in the rush." "In the meantime," Reuben continued, speaking to Venom, "why don't we watch? Oh, that's right, we sold the TV. I wouldn't worry." Reuben waved as if this didn't matter. "I'm sure they're both fine. Culture did say that Indigo and Siren are probably with them now, whoever they are." "And that's a good thing?" Venom asked, raising his eyebrow as he glanced towards Culture, who stared mutely back at him, his large leathery wings folded behind him. Reuben turned to look at Culture also. before facing Venom again. "Culture has been good to us," he said. "I think we can trust his friends to be good too." Venom folded his arms, not entirely convinced. "I sure hope you're right," Venom sighed. They lapsed into silence as the minutes began to tick away. Both the blue-haired woman and Lorelei slept heavily now, showing no signs of waking any time soon. Drake had been watching over Lorelei for the last several minutes, having not spoken for a while. No doubt his thoughts were clouded with worry. "You all right?" Drake said suddenly, speaking to the aberrant. Culture looked up. "You said that your heart hurts," Drake told him. "Yes," Culture said, avoiding his gaze then. "It does." He sat in one of the armchairs in the room, resting with his elbows on his knees, leaning forward to give space to his large wings. "What's wrong?" Drake asked him. Culture took a deep breath, answering only reluctantly after several moments. "I'm getting old," the aberrant confessed. "My heart is failing." "Old?" Drake repeated. He took at every detail of the aberrant's face. Despite the coal-black skin, the aberrant could have been called handsome. His face was slim and looked young, and his skin was utterly perfect. His appearance suggested that he was barely over 20, and his bare chest was lean and his arms were muscular. "I don't understand," Drake said. "Aberrants have a far shorter lifespan than humans do," Culture droned. "They grow fast and die young." "How old are you?" Drake said, "if you don't mind me asking." 24. "Is that all?" "Yes," the aberrant nodded glumly. "I'm nearing the end of my life. Most aberrants don't live past 25, and my heart has gotten worse day by day. But there's nothing to be done about it." He sighed deeply. "I only pray I live long enough to return to the ancient world." "I assure you all 4 of them are fine," Siren repeated yet again. "I promise my powers do not lie." "Even my brother?" Lucas insisted. "Is he fine too?" "Yes," Siren chuckled in amusement. "Even that Lorelei you love so much." Lucas drew back hesitantly, giving her an uncertain look. "I'm joking," Siren laughed, touching Lucas's arm in reassurance. "I know you find her tiresome. Annoying is more the word," Lucas finished. "Anyway," Ebony interrupted, her tone exasperated as she threw a disapproving look towards Lucas. She spoke to Siren. "Tell me about the ancient world." Siren gleamed kindly. "If you do come with us to the ancient world, I want you to come through your own choice." She knelt, sitting in the grass that now reached her eye level. "Please, sit with me." She placed the orb in her lap as Lucas and Ebony sat. Facing each other, they formed a triangle. Hidden by the tall grass, only the tops of their heads could be seen. Ebony noticed briefly the figure of Indigo, facing them a short distance away. He was leaning back against one of the old posts that made up the broken fence, arms crossed and looking glum. "The ancient world," Siren began, "is a wonderful place. There are no huge cities made of metal, no cars or pollution. Their cities are made of stone and are utterly outstanding. The land in the ancient world is by far more open, and more land is given to the wildlife. You can travel for miles in one direction and see nothing but wilderness. If you go in another direction, you will see the most fabulous towns." Siren paused for a moment, gazing down at her orb. She lifted her head and continued. "The city, the capital, is built of faded grey stone, with narrow streets and lines of houses as far as you could walk. It is built near the coastline, and the palace at its centre is the grandest building that I have ever seen." "I knew there were other worlds out there," Lucas said triumphantly. "My brother thought the same." "Well, you were right," Siren agreed. "Both of you." "How many worlds are there?" Lucas asked. "That we know of. 3. This world, the ancient world, and the aberrant world." "Aberrant world?" Ebony echoed. "It is a cold world," Siren explained, "and desolate. Or so it first appears. All aberrants originally come from that world." "Then how do they appear in this world?" Ebony asked Siren. "There are some aberrants that can use magic," Siren told her, "like Culture." "Who's that?" Lucas raised an eyebrow at the name. "The winged guardian you found in the skate park," Siren said to Lucas. "He told us all about that. He originally came from the aberrant world. Many aberrants who can wield magic leave portals open for other aberrants who cannot." "Portals?" Lucas leant forwards eagerly. "It's how guardians travel from one world to another," Siren told him. "It seems you still have a lot to learn." "Where are these portals?" Lucas asked Siren. The portals are in fixed places, so you have to find them before you can open them. That can sometimes be tricky. Only those that can wield magic can open a portal to another world. So I could open a portal? Lucas asked excitedly. Siren mused. Perhaps. You are still young as a guardian. I don't know much of your powers or abilities, but it is more than likely. Lucas nodded as her words sank in, trying hard to suppress his excitement. I have a question, Ebony asked Siren. How is it that people without magic cannot see us? Magic is a strange thing, Siren spoke, and I'm afraid we don't fully understand it, even now. But guardians can be seen by others who don't have magic, Ebony went on. Yet I cannot. Is that so? When I was younger, my foster parents barely noticed me, but now they don't see me at all. You've matured, Siren explained. You are an extremely powerful creature. You are bound to become unseen by the non-magic as you grow older. Guardians, though, are not as powerful. They can be seen by others, but not the magic that they use. If a normal person does see magic, then it drives them mad. Many believe there is a seal on this world, so magic cannot be seen. I suppose that makes sense, Ebony admitted. But why are aberrants attracted to us? I don't know, Siren replied. I don't think anyone does. We only know that aberrants are drawn to Philosopher's Stones. That's why we brought Culture along. A smile tweaked her lips. You have very beautiful eyes, by the way, she said to Ebony. They are very unusual. They were interrupted suddenly by Indigo. He stood over them now, arms crossed. We should go back to your home, Indigo said moodily to Lucas. We should see how your friends are doing. They stood in formation, facing inwards. Siren cast her hand out and used her magic to transport the four of them back to Lucas's home. When Lucas opened his eyes, blinded momentarily by the white light of the spell, he barely had time to reorientate himself before a figure rushed to him. Reuben embraced his brother tightly, whispering words of relief and reassurance into his ear. Lucas, in turn, held him back instinctively. Drake and the newly christened Venom both rose as the group materialized into the living room. Discussions began in a murmur between the elders. Shire still slept, and Culture explained to Indigo what had happened, glancing towards the young Lorelei as he did. Siren touched her mother's cheek tenderly, worry etched in her face. As the hours wore on and the sky darkened to almost pitch black, Drake and Venom decided to go home. I can't stay here, Drake said. I've got to go home. I'm visiting Eleanor tomorrow, and the train leaves early. Are you going to be all right? Lucas asked the both of them. Venom gave him a bemused look. I am a guardian, he said confidently. My powers have finally come to me. You have to understand, Lucas warned him, that there are still dangers out there. Then I can give as good as I get, Venom laughed. And anyway, Drake will accompany me half the way. Just be careful, Lucas told him, as Ebony shyly waved them goodbye from behind Lucas. We will, Drake said. Do me a favour and text me when you both get home, just so that I know you're safe. The two agreed only reluctantly. They said their goodbyes, and Lucas watched them as they left. Retreating back into the apartment, he propped the newly fixed door back in its place. It had been badly damaged by the creatures, but the elder guardians had helped him fix it as best they could. Inside the apartment now, the mood was subdued. Everyone was quiet, except for Culture and Ebony, who spoke eagerly together in hushed voices. No doubt he's drawn to her like the other aberrants are, Lucas thought, just like Siren told us. He received a text on his phone some minutes later from Drake and Venom, telling him that they had returned home safely. Lucas placed the mobile back in his pocket. It's late, he said to his brother. I'm going to bed. What about the others? Reuben asked, indicating the elder guardians and Lorelei. Lucas glanced at them. We're staying here, Indigo clarified. It's comfortable, if not a little chilly. He glanced at the broken window as he said this. Lorelei was still fast asleep, and Siren stayed close to her mother, who still rested. Well, I guess I can't make you leave, Lucas sighed. Even if I could be bothered to try, I suppose Lorelei is to stay too. She needs a rest, Siren voiced. Her body and mind have suffered a great strain. Lucas turned from the room, waving Siren away dismissively. Too weary by the day's events to answer, he slouched down the corridor to his own bed, Reuben trailing after him, and Ebony following them headed to her own room, once belonging to their mother. Collapsing on his bunk in the clothes he still wore, Lucas began to drift quickly off to sleep, before being abruptly woken by his mobile receiving a text. It was from Cheyenne. Will I be seeing you tomorrow? It read. Lucas groaned in frustration, dumping the mobile off the edge of the bed, rolling over to face the wall. He began to drift off again until he was deep in his dreams.